going on? Hello, everybody. Oh, that sucks. It's so bright. Nice. Yo, what up, everybody? How's it going? Welcome back in. My name is Michael. Today we're going to be programming some stuff. Hope you're having a good day today. Let's go ahead and get started. We're back in Bitter Linen. Our full stack project here should be fun. Where do we leave off on the front end? I think we have all the back end stuff that we need for right now. So where do we leave off on the front end? That's the question. Okay. Cool. I think we're good to get started here. Am I live? I am. Okay. So I'm actually gonna open up. We're gonna do front end work for today. Yay! Would you look at that? So let's go. Okay. Okay, hold up, we got an error here on create product form from our option die. Maps on a function and create options. Size options here. Here we go. Start a function to create product form. Size options not map. So we have a select and we have every option. So is it for the option though? Is it for the select? This should be on. What is this error exactly? I think it's, we had this error before. We'll select here with clothing categories on map. It goes to size options. Prevent default form data event current target new form data. Product data, we get these from form data that we have set up. Right, so it's from size options. So in order to display though, we display size options, which we don't have as anything. But we're importing size options here from cants. Okay. Zero size options. Don't think we want to do that anymore. We're gonna have create product form here is to, so in this we have client. I think we can just do client.get. Size options in your constants. Size options are going to be given from our API now via UVcorn. Server dot sorry, I'm gonna do UVcorn. No, we need to set up our database first, so Docker compose. Okay, UVcorn server main. Okay, a module server. Okay, so now we can run this Docker. Okay, so let's go here and go okay. Oh. Oh, maybe I don't have any default brands in there. Yeah, hold on. Oh, shoot, hold on. Maybe we have duplicated shoes. Hats. Yo, what's going on? How's it going, man? Tops. No, it's good. Okay. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to, now we have that running. So let's go ahead and get this set up here. HTTP required. primary products. Verifying axios. Huh. There are a lot of errors in our front end here. Okay, so we have axios going to 800, create axios for client type JSON. And returning client. Get products takes our client and runs these functions. Okay, so I'm going to take this function. I'm going to get size options. Async sort by data. Get size options. Via sort by category. Getting products via sort by option. So I don't think I really want to do that. I want to do I guess given all data, which can be probably a parameter data. Wait, override data here. Yeah, sort by. We don't need a sort by. Get size options of. So the size would be the category, right? Hold on 1 second. So on our server, we'd have models category, which has no clothing type. We get all clothing types. We go sizes. Size is system ID. Size system ID, right? So the size system ID is related here. Each clothing type is a primary size system and a secondary size system. Oh gosh. It's hard when you take breaks. So we have a primary size system and a secondary size system attached to the clothing type. Right, we have a product which has product just has the category ID, which has the category. The category is outside of this. Clothing types correspond to categories and primary size and secondary size systems. Size systems are just ID and names, and size is linked to size systems, right? So we would need to provide a get sizes would depend on, well, what size system is it? Get all the sizes with this size system. So size system is here. Well, what points to size system besides the size? Well, the clothing type. Okay. So we would have to get a size system. Yeah, it'd be get size. Okay, yeah. So funcs would be get size options. Get sizes via. This would be the size system ID. Right. Get sizes via size system ID is equal to this value here, return data const error fetching sizes error. Okay, so we have get sizes here. So create product form. We have just sizes here. Okay. I guess sizes is going to be a const sizes which is equal to a use state call. 2, we have client here. We don't need to import client. We need to import the function get sizes. Get sizes here. So import get sizes. We have the use state for sizes here, which is a call to clothing categories here, which is object keys of clothing categories. Clothing categories is key here, types category. Where's this coming from though? Set category, new category. Oh, this is for creating our product form, right? So you're giving specific category via categories that were coming in. That was from clothing categories.keys, which was Constance clothing categories here. Okay, so then we should have a model though that has all this information, or a script here. From database seed runner, it says keys tops with the values. Right, so we have the sizes here, and we have these here. Okay, so we would need to do we would need to, so we get sizes here. Get sizes returns us all the sizes, right? Given the system size ID, size system ID. Cool. Okay, so our create product form. Our create product form will take in the categories initially via and it's pulling from this clothing categories information here, so we need to fix this. So delete this. Okay, coding categories, key of category, no. Okay, so hold on here. I'm tired. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have clothing categories here. This is gonna be get clothing categories from our API call of client here, Axios. We're gonna import client, or no, sorry, from funcs. We're gonna do a get. We're gonna do a get categories, right? And categories is via get categories all for now, I guess. All categories. Yeah, all categories. So get, this would just be, which we already have. Right? So get categories. So we get categories. So we'll go back to our create product form. Let's do inside of here, we're gonna do get categories. So we'll call to get categories. Right? Get categories will return back to us a API call. Our routes, categories router has get categories here, which will return back category all. So if we go here, hit this, network, categories. Here's all our categories. Okay, perfect. So then what we're gonna do is we're just gonna loop. We're setting clothing category here to just the first one and get categories, right? Type, right? So this is, we're gonna need to do get clothing types via a category, right? So the thing is on, we have to have a use effect. So we have get categories here. So now we need to get the clothing types of so we have clothing types here, clothing types here. I don't think it needs to be a state call, it's going to be a call to get. But I guess it is a state variable on our, no, because we're going to need to get a, it's not data that we're importing, it's going to need to be a value that we're going to be getting via our API. But maybe that's not the best way to do it, because then we're going to be pinging the API every time we switch. Maybe we should just do get all clothing types. Nice. I'm trying to hit it with the titles J35. Let's ask a question here though. Right now I'm setting up my create product form to now call my API endpoints from my database, rather than from constant, just static JSON that I had written for things like the categories and the clothing types. The thing is the clothing types depend upon the provided category. So I'm currently calling the get categories API call to my database, and then I'm having to call get clothing types. But if the state change of categories changes, I would need to have a use effect or something or whatever to have clothing types update for the change to categories. Now that would require a call to get clothing types again to my API every time they would change that drop down menu option. So would it be better to maybe send all categories and all clothing types at once? Now each of them can be referenced via the front end via just some logic matching up the IDs with one another rather than pinging the database over and over again. What is the better way, or does it not really matter? For your use case, I would lean towards fetching everything once rather than making an API call every time. Touch clothing types on every change category, so like get. Okay, so we have. Let's instead do this. This is category type. So let's do this. Let's do. So we'll have this call here to get categories and clothing types. So this will ping so we have this, get categories and clothing types. It says, Ismail, hey, Sohan, how's it going? AJ3. Building my site Bitter Linen for me and my girlfriend for our vintage clothing store. So get categories and clothing types async, data await client.get, the categories and clothing types. Okay. Okay. So there. So then we need a thing here. Thing is we have clothing type create here and clothing type. I guess we'd have to. We'll put it at the categories level. Actually, we'll make a new route. Ooh. Make a new route file called joins router. This is just going to call database functions. Right, because this is just going to call database functions. Hey Sphinx, thanks for coming in, dude. I appreciate you joining me. How's the audio, you guys? Thanks for the positive blow. I appreciate it, man. So let's, in this one, so this is our routes. So our joins router here is going to be import from fast API, import API router. Router equals to API router with a prefix equal to quote slash joins. I think what's a good way to, is that a good way to do it with joins, like as in like because right now we have routes established as each individual file. Let me ask that question. Right now I have my routes folder, which established basically each object router, brands, categories, clothing type is its own router file, which is imported into my main fast API file via API router. And I am doing it this instance where we're conjoining two objects together via like joins, right? That we're kind of doing now joins or unions of databases or tables. So I created a file in my routes directory called joins router. Now this would be a prefix of slash joins in terms of how we're doing this. Is this a good practice, or what would be maybe a better way to do this, or give me some feedback. I think you're asking a slightly deeper architecture question. Where should this route go? The key question is what resources you're exposing. A client should generally care how the data obtains, joins, multiple queries, caching. Should care what data it wants. I would rather avoid slash joins router or joins. Your service layer is where the composition of the user pricing registers. Distinct between settle, but API tends to age well when your URL describe the business domain, product, service, and inventory rather than the database operations used. So the clothing, that's interesting. I'm just getting some feedback on some architecture stuff. So categories, clothing types. Category, the ID of the category, and the clothing types off that specific category. Interesting. The categories, we have create category. The clothing types router gets clothing types, creates clothing type. But categories, I guess, if you think about it, points to specific clothing types. Right, categories point to some sort of clothing type. So in order for category would point to a specific clothing type or group, right? Or a singular one if it's just one. It's really okay. So it would be, if we want it to be in the categories router, you'd get category and then a specific clothing type off of that category. Okay, I don't think I want to do that, so let's just name this, rename to reference data. Right. We'll have reference data router here. Right. And then we'll have so we have this. Now we'll have a router dot get. This is going to be slash we're going to get for reference data, we're going to get slash categories and clothing types. Define a function of get. Brutal name. Okay, no data. We're gonna have a that's going to be equal to a session. This is going to be a call to a depends function. And that's depend is going to be get db. Oh my gosh. From fast API import depends as well. Okay, so here's our function definition. It's going to call a database. It's going to fill a database variable, which is a session type, which is going to be a session of our database, which depends on this function call successfully executing, I believe, right? Dependable call like a function. And the database will return a session for our database instance, right? So we have in here, what we're going to do is we're going to get categories and clothing types. So we're going to say database dot scalar right. We're going to get select. What are we going to select? So this is going to be from select. We're going to select our from models dot category and for clothing type. Select our category. I want to select all categories dot where category. This is what I don't know. This is part for getting how do you join in SQL Alchemy? Okay, so you select them in the same select parameter. Okay. Interesting. So we would select category and clothing type dot join. Right, so you join there. Right, category clothing type. join the category, the clothing type, right? Dot category ID and the category dot ID. It's equal to. So this would join together category clothing type dot join category and clothing type category. So this is a statement, right? Now we're going to do, sorry, not even, sorry, a database, be just this as our statement here. Now we would do, it would just be results equals to database dot execute statement. And return all, right? Basically be that. So I'm going to print result here. I'm going to ping this database. Hold up. Okay, so we need to add this router really quick. Wait, what? No module named models. Okay. Okay, so this gets you a response of this here. Category, category object, server model, category, and clothing type. So that's the clothing type and the category that are being returned back here. Right. Okay, so we have categories and clothing types. And now we just need to... Well, this printed this, right? So it's just a bunch of clothing types. Categories all in an array. Right, so that's a res. So if we return the result to the front end, just return the thing returned from the database to the front end. I guess we'll just return the result to our front end. Right. Internal server error. Vars must have type dict attribute that goes action direct across the following exception. Cannot convert dictionary update sequence element hashtag 0 to a sequence type error. Var argument must have type dictionary attribute. What does this mean? Categories of clothing types. Okay, so we need some relationships here, it looks like. So I've never done this before. So we have category. Right, so category is going to have a relationship here called clothing types, right? Which is equal to a relationship. And this is going to be from, I'm guessing, SQL Alchemy. Oh, from, yeah. What's it from? Is it from Pydantic? Oh, it's an arm. Okay. So the relationship here is going to be, quote, clothing, the clothing type So then it goes back populates, quote, clothing, categories. Right, so we'll have a similar relationship thing in clothing type. But this will be right category. Right, category is relationship. So we import relationship for clothing type, which back calculates clothing types. This is for relationship to categories. The category. So you do, just depends, statement all. So in our base model then for clothing type schema, you have model config, which equals to config dict. This thing is from here. Type dict for pydantic behavior. And from attributes, whether to build model and look up discriminator or of tagged unions using Python object. Yeah, okay, true. So a configuration, a config dictionary, right? Actually, clothing type read. This would be on clothing type read. Because to read a model, you'd have conal for this one. And as well on category read. Right? But on category read, to read a bunch of categories, you would have clothing types, right? Right, because you're going to send categories to the front end with associated list of what? Clothing types. Read. Which defaults to a list. So we have to import clothing type read. So clothing type read we get imported to be associated with the relationship here of our category read, right? To have an optional empty list of clothing type reads, right? To send to the front end. And you can configure this dictionary with model config. So then in our actual reference data here, we would use this thing called a select in load. This So you would have a select category dot options. Apply options to the statement. In general sense, options are any kind of Python object that can be interpreted by the SQL compiler for the statement. These options can be consumed by specific dialects or specific kinds of compilers. The most commonly known kind of option are the ORM level options that apply eager load and other loading behaviors to an ORM query. However, options can be theoretically used for any other purpose. So the option that we're going to use here, I guess, is a select in load of category dot clothing types. So category, right, from models has a clothing type, which is a relationship to clothing type. Clothing type is a model we have in here. Okay. So now what we can do okay, cool. So that executes the statement and returns all. But it's a database.scalar statement. Reference data categories. So here what you would have is a response model, which is equal to a list of what model, right? Which is our SQL models, our category reads. This would be our pedantic model, I'm sorry. Right, so the category read schema is what's being sent as the response model for this endpoint, which is true, because we're returning a load of these Response model will category read does not tell SQL Alchemy what to query. It tells FastAPI how to serialize and validate the data that comes back for your environment before sending it to the front end. Okay, so this is going to, before sending this, it's going to say this is a list of category reads and return that back. Right, and a category read is this with a list of clothing types. So let's hit this endpoint then. Okay, so we need to do docker compose down -v. We need to do docker compose up -d. We need to do mapper clothing type. We got this error twice now. What does this mean? We've seen this one before. You told me that there was a relationship property called categories on clothing type, but I can't find it. The issue is almost certainly this. So in the category model, ID string. Clothing types is a relationship between clothing type and back populates equals to categories. Oh, so hold on. Category. I have this. On category model, there should be an attribute called clothing type that points back to the relationship. It's clothing types here, but it's category in here. Single category. Here. Yeah. From size system does not exist. Oh shoot, I think we've gotten something like this before. Relation size system does not exist. Undefined table. So let me go to my oh shoot, did not mean to be playing this. So we have the great title. I don't know if people like it. We've got the table isn't being made yet. So it's not being made yet. So if we go to our main.py, we have size systems here. From models, import size system. We are importing size system here. Huh. That's our front end. Let's go here. CD server. Let's do docker compose down dash. Okay. Python-m server dot database dot seed runner. This table doesn't exist. Why? I thought I already. Any relations? Hold on. Oh no. Okay, there's all of our things set up. Now we're gonna run our seed runner. Okay, that hit, good. Okay, we're back. We get an error. String type location responsible and encoded by input should be valid string input none. Input should be valid string. Input was none. Fast API exception response validation 49 error validation. 49 validation errors. Okay, so it's something to do with our fast API response. Let's go to our router here. So type, string type, location of response. Seven. Create really types 0 or created by messaging. These errors are brutal. I don't get them today. So category read in our pedantic schema created by date time stir, which is none right now. Yeah, right. I made it stir on like our last video, so it needs to be no here. This. Okay, I'll take care of that. It's a hat, beanie, baseball cap, bucket hat. Beautiful. Perfect. It's exactly the one. Okay. So now what we can do is go back to our front end, which we closed out of. Okay, we can go back to our front end. Go to our function here. Get this. Get reference data slash categories and clothing types. Right, that'll get that. Now create product form, we have get categories and clothing types here, reference data. Reference data index of 1, right? So we're gonna make a list. Index of 1, no. Index of 1 is an object. key of name so reference data, index of 1, key of name, index of 0, key of name is our category. Right. And then what we would do is clothing types would be reference data. So it'd be reference data here. Right, the reference data. Actually, yeah, it'd be reference data. Key of 0. Or list the first object in the list of reference data. Key so it'd be the corresponding clothing types in this okay, hold on. So reference data is a list of dictionaries. We have the first object in the dictionary is hats, which is a category. That dictionary category has a key and value pairing of clothing types. So it would be clothing types. So this is clothing type. This is currently how I'm doing this part here. You're running into a couple of React state issues here. The biggest one is that get category is encoded type is a string, but you can't immediately return its value into a initialized state. Reference data is this, category is the category's name. Reference data is probably a promise, not your array. The flow is component renders, call API, wait for response, set state, render, re-render with data. A more typical pattern would be to have const reference data and then set reference data, right? This would be a use state hook defaulting to an empty list, right? Category and set category defaulting to an empty value. Okay. Clothing type and clothing is empty as well. Okay. So, okay, yeah, that's what I mentioned earlier is a use effect, right? So a use effect, a side effect for some sort of action or something, right?
Now, if there's nothing in there, it'll just the use effect will happen on everything, right? Unless some specific thing is given in the effect parameter list. So we're going to call use effect here. So this is going to be a use effect call. And this goes like this. Okay, it's this. And this is, and then this opens up. Then in the function, I always forget how to write these. So it goes like this, arrow, oh shoot. This, arrow, brackets, open. This bracket is met with a thing here. This notation is so brutal. Okay. So this is the use effect format here. So we're having an async call to a function load reference data, right? This async function load reference data is going to call const data, which is equal to get categories and clothing types, right? And we need to, because this is async, we have to await this. Okay. Once we have the data, we set reference data to data via our state hook. And we say if data dot, we would do a thing here, dot length is greater than 0. Right, meaning that we have data in here, we're going to set category to data index of 0 dot name, and set clothing type to data index of 0 dot clothing type dot name, but it's clothing types, and it's a list of clothing types. Okay, so that does that. Okay, so that's just a function that's defined here. And now what you would do is you just call that said function. So you define this async function in this use effect, and then load reference data is called on that effect. Clothing categories. So set clothing type set clothing type So on change for the category, all right, we're going to set a new category to the new category. And we're going to set clothing types to the reference data of every for every it would be for every clothing type in that category, right? So we'd set clothing type. Crap. I think I'm trying to do too much at once here. But no. Front end's hard for me. I'm about to get ready to go to bed here. So we have clothing types here. We set clothing types to reference data. So on submit of this form, you submit. You have a label status, the category, which has a select. Then you have I'm gonna get some feedback here on. I'm really bad at this front end. I want some feedback here on how to convert this. I think we're close, but yeah, we're very close. The main thing, your component is halfway between your old state. So clothing categories. Reference data.map c c.id c.name. Type is not defined. Clothing type.
values clothing type E, set clothing type E target value. Alright, you guys, I'm tired. I think I'm going to call it for today. Appreciate you guys being here and hanging with me. This front end stuff drains me quick. The Python stuff I can do and work through, but geez. Anyways, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thanks so much for being here and hanging out with me. This week, make sure you guys leave a like on the stream if you enjoyed it. Appreciate you guys hanging with me today.